Yo, what's going on, guys? King here. In today's video, I want to take you through a cosmetic build guide to help you create your very own Black Templar Sword Brethren for the Bulwark class here in Space Marine 2. We're going to cover everything from armor pieces to chapter and heraldry markings, as well as weapon choices and weapon skins. At the end of the video, we're also going to go through some concept art from Games Workshop to make sure we have a lore-accurate version of what a Black Templar Sword Brethren would look like here in Space Marine 2. But first, a little bit of lore behind the Sword Brethren, as they are the greatest warriors within a fighting company of the Black Templars and are organized as part of the Crusades commanding Marshal's household. They are there for the equivalent of the chapter's veteran first company, and Sword Brethren exist within each of the companies of the Black Templars. And essentially, the Sword Brethren are a step below the marshals of the company, marshals being the same rank or equivalent as a captain of a company. So it is within the Sword Brethren that when a marshal falls, when a captain of the company falls, they are the next up, the next chosen to lead the upcoming crusades of the Black Templars if need be. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into the build. And we're going to come over here to the edit armor selection. And as you can see, I have my standard issue second company Bulwark here for the Ultramarines. We're going to come over here and create a custom armor set. And we are going to start off with the helmet. And within the helmet selection, there are about 4 options that I would really consider to be the most lore accurate for a Sword Brethren. Number 1 being the no helmet option, as some Sword Brethren, especially a Sword Brethren Sergeant, would be going into battle without a helmet. The next would be the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus Crusader type helmet. And then the next 2 after that would be specific really to the Black Templars, being this one here, the Artificer Mark 10, which is a heroic variant, which you can get from the heroic store, and also the Black Templars Artificer Mark 10 heroic helmet as well. For this one, we are going to start off this build with the Mark 10 Tacticus standard issue, as that is going to be closest in resemblance to what we are really going for when we look at the tabletop model. Now, when we get into the pauldrons, the left pauldron, the best options by far are really only 2 options. It's going to be the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus left pauldron like this, or you could also use the Black Templar Champion left pauldron. And for this cosmetic build guide, we are going to go through at least 2 builds, one including the DLC content that you can get from the Season Pass and the Champion skins. And then number 2, if you do not own the Season Passes, you could also create the same character without those items as well. So for this actual build, we are actually going to go with the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus left pauldron, and I'll show you why, especially when we get into the heraldry and chapter markings for the Sword Brethren, and why I wouldn't particularly choose the Black Templar Champion pauldron because of the color palette options that are available in Space Marine 2. So then for the right pauldron, we are going to go with the matching one here, standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus. You could also use the Master Crafted version, as that one has a purity seal on the front, which does signify veteran status and is just a little bit of a nice accessory that you could add to that right pauldron. For the breastplate, the best option by far is going to be the Black Templar Champion breastplate because of the tabard that is used by the Black Templar Sword Brethren. This is a front and back tabard that covers the entirety of the breastplate. It also has a unique collar, which is very, very lore accurate to what the tabletop models have as well. So that by far is going to be the best. And then for the backpack, the 2 best options that you're going to be able to use is going to be the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus backpack, and then also the Black Templar Champion relic tier backpack, okay? Because of the essentially the Iron Halo-esque piece on the top of the Black Templar Champion backpack, that really goes in line with the Sword Brethren, as they typically will have a symbol or an icon or a Iron Halo-esque accent or accessory on the top of their power packs. This is a great option. You could choose from the options of the Mastercrafted Artificer tier or Relic tier backpacks. They are a little less in alignment with what a typical Sword Brethren would use, and that will show when we go to look at the concept art from Games Workshop. So we're actually going to start off this build with the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus Backpack Power Pack, and then when we come to the Storm Shield option, you could really use any Storm Shield you would like, as Sword Brethren typically do not carry a Storm Shield into battle, especially when you go off of the 11th edition datasheet. The Storm Shield is not included on that datasheet from their weapon or defense choices. So the best two options by far are going to be something like this Artificer tier Storm Shield, but really what you would want to choose is something that is really in line with what a Black Templar would use or would go with, that matches their aesthetic, okay? So Artificer tier Storm Shield like this. You could also use this Relic tier Storm Shield, and even this one right here. Even this one right here being the one with the skeleton on the front. Again, the Black Templar Champion Storm Shield, which is Relic tier, is going to be a great option as well, and probably the best option out of all if you do have the Season Pass DLC. As far as the gauntlets go, the Sword Brethren are known for having lots of chains on their gauntlets to make sure that they chain their weapons to their actual body when they go into battle. As they use a secondary weapon and a melee weapon, having that item chained to their body, make sure if they fall down or if the item or the weapon gets knocked away from them, it is not lost in the dirt, something they cannot pick up or cannot find. And that's why the Black Templars typically chain their weapons to their body, is to make sure that they are not lost within battle. So best option by far is going to be the Black Templar Champion left gauntlet, and the matching right gauntlet for that as well. You could also use the Mark 10 Tacticus Relic tier right gauntlet like this, or more specifically, even a better choice would be the Mark 10 Tacticus right gauntlet Artificer tier like this with the chains across it. Biggest thing you want to make sure is that the gauntlets are matching from side to side to have that standard look across the entire model. And then when it comes to the greaves, there again are really two options that I would choose. Number one being the Mark 10 Tacticus standard issue left greave like this, or the Black Templar Champion Relic tier left greave and the matching right greave as well. If you even wanted to, you could add the mastercrafted version into that as well, just with the addition of the purity seal. But for this one, we're going to go with the standard issue left and right greave for the Mark 10 Tacticus armor type. When we go to look at the concept art for the greaves for the Sword Brethren, what you'll notice is that they are typically firstborn marine type greaves as a single unit with no separate knee padding or knee cap. So that is the main reason why you want to keep a very clean left and right greave. You don't want to have any additional skulls on the greave as well, because on the Sword Brethren greave, on at least one of the greaves, whether that be left or right, they typically have a Sword Brethren marking, being a sword pointed straight down that is wrapped in a parchment or purity seal type look. So very, very basic armor piece choices for the Sword Brethren. This is what we're going for with the armor builds so far. But let's move over to the chapter and heraldry markings. The easiest way to start off a build for a Black Templar Sword Brethren is by far going to be to use the preset skin for the Black Templars like this, with a lot of the Black Templar iconography already on it, the chapter markings and heraldry markings. But for this video, we are going to do a custom chapter armor pattern. And the main color that we are going to use for this is Abaddon Black. So all of the armor is going to be primarily Abaddon Black. For the helmet, that's what we're going to choose here. For the lenses, we are going to leave those Mephiston Red, as that is in line with what the Black Templars would typically use as their lens color. Backpack, same deal. We're going to go with Abaddon Black for the primary and secondary colors. And then when we get to the breastplate, We are going to change the main color to a batten black, the secondary color to a batten black, and then the tertiary color, which is typical for the Black Templars, we are actually going to change to the color Wraithbone. So let me just make sure we find that Wraithbone color here. Oh, it's up here. So that would be for the Aquila. That also helps cover up the Aquila a little bit in the middle here to match the actual tabard, so you don't have any separation of colors when it comes to the actual model in the game. As far as the pauldrons go, this is where it's going to change up a little bit to signify their sword brethren status within the Black Templars. The main color we're going to actually make this pauldron is a batten black, and the tertiary color, which is going to be the trim, we are going to use Mephiston red. Along with that, we are going to change the emblem on the side to the Black Templar cross right here, and we are going to change that color as well to Mephiston red. Now, this pauldron iconography is specific to the sword brethren and the sword brethren alone. Same thing with the right pauldron. We're going to make that main color batten black, tertiary color Mephiston red. We are going to change the chapter icon to be the Black Templar cross. And then we are going to make that Black Templar cross Mephiston red as well. And you really want to choose a very bright red color to identify the sword brethren with the trim and the Black Templar cross on each shoulder. Just to go back a little bit, I want to make sure I also note that on the breastplate, the cloth color for the actual tabard is going to stay as Wraithbone. You'll see this in the concept art from Games Workshop, but all of the sword brethren and how they're painted for the tabletop use a Wraithbone tabard. Typically, they would have a red Templar cross in the middle, but the main color is always going to be Wraithbone. For the gauntlets, we're also going to go with that a batten black, so primary, secondary, and tertiary colors are all going to be a batten black, and the tertiary color will be Corvus black, but it's just going to match that a batten black main color, and the same thing for the right gauntlet. And then for the greaves, we are going to go along with the same color palette, which is going to be a batten black for both the primary and secondary colors. And then for the storm shield, there's no real rules around what the storm shield color should be for sword brethren, because again, they typically don't carry a storm shield into battle. The actual squad makeup of the squad, when you buy the pack of sword brethren from Games Workshop, doesn't have storm shields included on the models that we're going to see in the concept art. So really what I would recommend doing is doing the same color palette as the armor, which would be an Abaddon black main color, secondary color, same thing, Abaddon black, and then you can actually make the trim of this shield that Mephiston red color, just to match the color palette of the actual sword brethren. So this is what we have in terms of a cosmetic build for the sword brethren as a base build. Let me show you the other option in terms of armor pieces that you could use to still make this Marine without having any sort of DLC or season passes. So you're going to want to use the same standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus helmet, the same pauldrons with the left and right pauldron. For the breastplate, you'll actually want to go with the Mark 10 Tacticus Artificer tier, okay? Because of the actual chain necklace. This is very common among sword brethren as well. For the shield, you'll want to change to something, like I said previously, like a relic tier or artificer tier shield. And then for the gauntlets, what you'll want to do is choose something that's in line and really just matches well together. Again, the right gauntlet using this Mark 10 Tacticus Artificer tier with the change matches really nicely, and then with the left gauntlet you could use the mastercrafted version or even the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus. So this would be the Marine sort of without any season pass or DLC content. That would work really, really well as well. The one thing I did want to note for this character, just a few extra pieces, is if you wanted to, it wouldn't be considered lore accurate because of the Salamander's icon. You could use the Salamander's backpack and then just make the Salamander's logo Baden Black or Corvus Black to match the backpack, because the actual fire piece on the top of the backpack is something that the Black Templar Sword Brethren would also typically use when wearing or choosing their armor makeup. So that sort of fire iron halo on the top would also work really, really well, but it wouldn't be considered lore accurate to what the Black Templars would typically wear because it is a Salamander's piece after all. And then the other option, which I saw that could be a really great option as well, but again would typically not be, really lore accurate, would be the Imperial Fist right pauldron. And the reason this one wouldn't be as lore accurate is because it doesn't have that raised shoulder trim and that blocking piece sort of across to guard the neck area of the Sword Brethren. But the best part about this pauldron is there is a tilt shield on the top of the pauldron, and typically Black Templar Sword Brethren have a tilt shield on either the right or left pauldron. This is a Mark 10 Tacticus, standard issue type pauldron though, and if you didn't mind having the Imperial Fist pieces on this, you could also use this as well. Again, I would just recommend picking a left pauldron to match the right pauldron in terms of style, but this could be another option for you. It just would not make the character as lore accurate or the build as lore accurate as the other pauldron options that we chose. Along with that, what I wanted to mention about the Black Templar Champion pauldrons is, if you see here, with the current chapter and heraldry markings and color palette that we do have, changing the main color to a Baden Black and then the trim to Mephiston Red, what you'll notice about the Black Templar Templar Cross for this pauldron though is the color of the Templar Cross doesn't change, and that's not lore accurate to the Sword Brethren, because you want to make sure the Sword Brethren Black Templar Cross is that Mephiston Red color. That is why, or that is going to be the most lore accurate to the tabletop models. The concept art is making sure that that Black Templar Cross is Mephiston Red and not, a Baden Black matching the actual background of the shoulder pauldron. So you can use the Black Templar Champion pauldrons. Just know that the Black Templar Cross color is not going to be able to be changed just due to how the pauldron operates within Space Marine 2. And that's why we go with the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus pauldron. So let me just change these back to match. So that's really going to be the build for the Black Templar Sword Brethren in terms of armor pieces, chapter and heraldry markings. And you'll see how this lines up really, really well with the tabletop models. But let's dive into the actual weapon choices and weapon skins to make this really a lore accurate look. So we'll start off with the secondary weapon, and according to the data sheet for 11th edition for Warhammer 40k for the Black Templar Sword Brethren, they can use a number of secondary weapons, primarily being the plasma pistol, the heavy bolt pistol, and then a pyre pistol, which is essentially a mini one-handed flamer. So these two, by far, are going to be the most lore accurate options. Along with that, you could also use the standard bolt pistol within Space Marine 2. And if you even wanted to use the Neovolkite, you could. Just know that it's not as lore accurate according to the data sheet. by far the plasma pistol and the heavy bolt pistol are going to be your best choices. But the main thing you want to make sure is that whatever weapons you do use, that you use the Mephiston Red Siege weapon skin. So the Mephiston Red plasma pistol, the Mephiston Red heavy bolt pistol. Having that Mephiston Red weapon skin is going to be directly lore accurate to what the Black Templars would use in this scenario. And then for the melee weapons, according to the 11th edition datasheet, are going to be the chainsword, any sort of master-crafted power weapon. So that could be power fist, lightning claws, power sword, and the power axe. And then also the thunderhammer. The thing about the thunderhammer is with the sword brethren, they would typically use a single-handed thunderhammer versus a two-handed thunderhammer. But in Space Marine 2, we only have the option to use a two-handed thunderhammer, so that's completely fine. And then in terms of weapon skins, to make them the most lore accurate as possible, for the chainsword, you're definitely going to, again, want to use that Mephiston Red Siege chainsword skin. So Mephiston Red chainsword. For the thunderhammer, the best options by far are going to be the Ophelian Liberation Alpha and the Salvation of Baka Alpha. Those ones are going to be most in line with what would be aesthetic to the Black Templars for sure. For the Power Fist, you can really use any skin, so Agamedes Gift Alpha, the Arakatan Oath Alpha, the Mastercrafted Alpha, or the Standard Issue. All of those are completely fine, as it's just going to match the armor color in general of whatever you've already created. And then for the Power Sword, the best weapon skins by far are going to be the Black Templar Power Sword, okay? But then also the Warden Blade Alpha, the Arakatan Oath, and then you could also include the Galthamore Crusade and the Imperator Blade. All of those would be fine. So really these four, Warden Blade, Galthamore Crusade, Imperator Blade, and the Arakatan Oath. And then for the Power Axe, the best options are going to be by far the Artificer Beta and then also the Relic Beta. These are going to be most in line aesthetically with what the Black Templars would use because they have a single blade on the Power Axe versus a double-bladed Power Axe like the Relic Alpha or the Relic Gamma. So those are going to be the weapon choices and weapon skins that work the best with the Black Templar Sword Brethren. Let's jump over to the concept art from Games Workshop and see how our model in Space Marine 2 matches up with that of the concept art and the tabletop models provided by Games Workshop. Okay, let's take a look at the current concept art provided by Games Workshop for the Black Templar Sword Brethren. So here's the current Sword Brethren squad available on Warhammer.com, and the biggest thing to note right off the bat is every single Sword Brethren has a cape on them. Unfortunately, we don't have capes available for the Bulwark class in Space Marine 2. But the first thing to note right off the bat is that Mephiston Red trim color and the Mephiston Red Black Templar cross on every single Sword Brethren. So that is the indicator that within the Black Templar chapter that they are a Sword Brethren. Again, what you can see here is the tabard front and back is that Wraithbone color, and on the Sergeant, they have a red Templar cross. So we can't change the red Templar, we can't change the Templar cross color in the color palette customizer in Space Marine 2. So making the actual tabard Wraithbone is going to make that as lore accurate as possible. And then you can see each of them has a tilt shield on either the right or left pauldron. And for the Greaves, what sticks out the most is these are Firstborn Marine Greaves. So they are a single unit. They don't have a separate knee pad like they do in Space Marine 2 for Primaris models. So that's why I said using the standard issue greave for left and right, or the Black Templar Champion left and right greave are going to be your best options. And then you can also notice here that on each one, they have their weapons chained to them with a separate cuff. Okay, so that's why we use the Black Templar Champion right and left gauntlets to match, as Black Templars are known for chaining their weapons to their body in case they get lost during battle. You can also see here the Mephiston red weapon skins for every single weapon. The Black Templar Sword Brethren also have combi weapons available to them. The Bulwark class in Space Marine 2 isn't able to use combi weapons, so we go with things like the Plasma Pistol, the Heavy Bolt Pistol. They have a Pyre Pistol here, which is that mini hand flamer. You can also see that they have dual lightning claws, so using a power fist is absolutely lore accurate for these characters. But you can see here the red Mephiston red chainsword, and then the power axe variant. The power axe variant specifically has a single blade on the power axe. It's not a double bladed power axe, so you're going to want to use those two options that we went through in terms of weapon skins to make it as lore accurate as possible. And then, as you can notice here, two of the models are helmetless, so that is completely fine. You can go with a no helmet option. For the Bulwark class in Space Marine 2, the no helmet option actually works really great for this model. And then they also have that Crusader type helmet. So using the standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus Crusader helmet, and then also the Black Templar Artificer type helmets that are marked from the Heroic store are great options as well, especially the one that has the Black Templar cross that is white on the front. You can use that because it also has the studs on the top of the helmet with a little skull, which would be in line with these types of helmets as well. Something to note as well is you can see that they have, Iron Halo type accessories on the top of their power packs. So using the Black Templar Champion backpack is completely fine. It works great. Also using the Salamander's backpack is an option if you're okay with having the Salamander's icon on the back. It wouldn't make it as lore accurate, but it would add a nice, unique little option because it would have the flame coming up from the backpack as well. But then they also have a Sword Brethren right here that has nothing on the top of his backpack. So you can see here that's just a standard issue Mark 10 Tacticus power pack, which makes it completely fine. And that's why we went with that option instead. So that works great too. This is really the model that we are going after right here in terms of Sword Brethren. So the Wraithbone Tabard, the Mephiston Red trim with the Mephiston Red Templar Cross, Mephiston Red Heavy Bolt Pistol, Mephiston Red Chainsword, and then you can just see, all the little accents and accessories to match the Black Templar Sword Brethren. Here's another look at another character using a power axe and a Pyre Pistol. So same sort of thing. And again, there's the only thing on this power pack that makes it different is that Iron Halo type accessory. And then let's take a look at the Sergeant here with the Combi Plasma and the Power Sword. So everything in line with our model build in Space Marine 2 matches this. As you can see on the actual greave, the Sword Brethren have a very specific greave that has this Sword Brethren marking with a sword pointed straight down and wrapped in this parchment type paper. So that is specific to the Sword Brethren, and there really isn't anything in Space Marine 2 that matches that type of greave. So we just chose the best options available, which were those two options I gave you previously. So let's take a look at some more concept art here. You can see here, this is a Sword Brethren leading some Black Templars into battle using a Pyre Pistol and a Power Axe, and same sort of thing. That Mephiston Red trim, he has a little tilt shield here, but again, he has a Wraithbone colored tabard, okay? And just to note, if we go back to the squad, the Black Templar Sword Brethren squad, this model up here with the Power Axe, he has that Black Templar Cross with a chain around his breastplate. So that's why if you don't have the DLC or season pass and you don't have access to the Black Templar champion accessories, using the artificer tier breastplate for the bulwark works great for this. Because it has that chain around the top of the breastplate that hangs down right in the middle. So that works perfectly if you don't have those options as well. But looking again at this concept art, you can see some heraldry markings here on the knee pad, sort of like a quartered company marking with white quarters and red quarters. That too you could add onto the Sword Brethren's knee pad, but typically, you know, just based off the actual tabletop models that Games Workshop provides, they don't have anything on those knee pads. Here's another shot of a Sword Brethren using a power sword. So, you know, using the Arakatan Oath power sword skin works really great for this, as it has that crossing type hilt. That works really great. But as you can see, this really shows off that Sword Brethren type marking on the actual greave as well. But again, they have that Wraithbone tabard front and back. And then one more. This is just some general concept art. I don't know if this is AI generated, but same sort of thing. If you really wanted to use a helmet that's specifically like a Primaris type helmet that had the Black Templar cross on the top or on the front of the helmet, you could use that as well. It's just another option for you to keep it lore accurate. And then here is the actual data sheet that I was referencing for the weapon choices for the Sword Brethren. As you can see, first weapon, combi weapon. Those aren't available to the Bulwark class in Space Marine 2. Heavy bolt pistol, plasma pistol, pyre pistol, and then melee weapon choices being Astartes chainsword, mastercrafted power weapons, standard power weapon, and thunderhammer. Okay, so really all the melee weapons in Space Marine 2 are going to be available for this character, and it really just makes the Sword Brethren such a well-rounded, character within the lore, and very, very cool character within the lore in terms of their hierarchy and how they are sort of like those elite first company veterans that if the marshal or the captain of that Black Templar Crusade were to fall, they are the next up to replace them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did we hit the mark or did we miss the mark with this cosmetic build? Let me know what you guys want to see next in terms of cosmetic builds. If you guys like this type of content, make sure you like the damn video and subscribe, and I will see all of you guys in the next one. Peace.